I didn't want to disappoint you, Howard.
You never disappoint me, Mayor.
I'm glad you're coming home early. Did you get my message?
I thought the writer of the Phoebe's was
yes, quite right.
Okay. So I think your wine went out live from what I can see, Mayor.
Excellent. Well, I'm just toasting my mother, who would have been, if she'd have lived, would have been 100 years today.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Right.
Okay, so welcome everyone to the Chearsley Parish Council meeting, once again remotely, live with us, and people from elsewhere can watch via Zoom. Monday the 19th of October. So let's move straight into the agenda, and Helen, can you report on any parishioners' questions, please?
There was just one that came in today from Tony Babington about CCTV, but because that's on the agenda, actually no, it's not on the agenda anymore, is it?
No.
So he asked, has the parish council considered installing a CCTV camera focused on the Winchenden-Chiltern junction, with us not recall more evidence in support of the traffic surveys needed to have HGVs restricted from using the village roads? So that's coming from Tony today.
John, can I refer to you?
Well, I mean, I think we've had no formal discussion about it, have we? But it is one of the, you know, Tony's not the first to sort of mention it as a proposal, but, you know, I think it does, you know, I don't think we can give an instant answer, but I mean, I think perhaps what we can say is that, you know, we should investigate the option properly, fully, because it's not just a question of saying yes, isn't it? You know, I think it needs fuller consideration. Obviously, Tony's question relates to the junction where, you know, as we know, we've done a lot of work. Currently, well, you know, I think we are going to talk about that later on in the agenda today. Also, you know, speed sentinel and keeping an eye on speeding. So, you know, I think it is part of a wider discussion, and you know, I'd like to think that we will give it proper consideration, you know, as one of the possible traffic calming measures that we can take. What I think is without doubt is that, you know, we still see some pretty foolhardy manoeuvres. I mean, interestingly, our traffic survey shows that very, very few vehicles actually come up the Aylesbury Road now and attempt to turn right, but they still do it. And often, well, perhaps not often, but occasionally with some fairly dramatic consequences of, you know, we've lost 2 branches to our horse chestnut tree in recent years, but I think it bears fuller discussion. Certainly.
Okay. All right, John. Thanks for that. I mean,
is it on the agenda for next meeting anyway?
Yeah, I've moved the CCTV discussion as well to Helen's rearranged it for the next parish council meeting, on the basis that I thought it was important that Paul Banner and John Lewis were present. I think it's important to get their views and our views as a group. And Paul's very kindly rearranged. He's also, I think, if you can circulate the notes, Helen, that he sent to the parish council, he has suggested that if any councillors would like to come and see the monitoring station they have with these amazing screens and all that go with it, he's happy to host a visit locally to that, which in his words convince councillors very quickly the benefits rather than the downsides of having discrete camera surveillance on things like main junctions, etc. So we'll circulate that for now. And then if I feel there's a swathe of opinion that wants to support that, we can arrange a visit. And then, as I say, he's prepared to come to the next meeting with the main guy from the UK security company and talk a bit more about it with us. So, okay. I think, was there something, Helen, did Fenella Tillier drop a note in as well? I think I saw something.
Fenella was talking about voting, and she was keen to make sure that it's all done properly and votes are counted, etc.
Yeah.
So, just to make sure it's done in a more formal manner.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few responses from my colleagues, and I personally have no objections to that. If we have a vote on a particular matter, then I think there's nothing wrong with raising our hands for supporting, objecting, or abstaining. So I think if everyone's comfortable with that, we'll write those into the minutes. Keith?
I was just voting, so yes.
Well, I haven't asked for the vote yet, Keith, but I like a man out the blocks quickly. So all those in favour of the parishioners' recommendation, please raise their hands.
In the camera.
I think that's unanimous from the councillors, and I saw a nod of approval, I think, from some officers. So that's great. So thank you, parishioners, Tony Babington and Fenella Tillier, for those bits of input. Really, really important, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you. Anything else at all, Helen?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so if you have questions and you're looking in right now, then get them sent in as quickly as you can. We can't guarantee they'll be listened to this evening, but they'll go on record for another time. Apologies for absence. I think we have John, Lewis and Paul Bown.
Yeah.
In terms of declarations of interest, can I just say, in accordance with section 30 and 235 of the Localism Act 2011, do councillors have anything to declare, either personal, prejudicial or pecuniary, pertaining to the agenda?
Not for me.
No. Excellent, thank you. Could I have a proposer and a seconder for the minutes, please, of the meeting 21st of September?
I propose.
I'll second then.
Thank you, Martin and Keith and Martin. Helen, would you like to take us through any matters arising?
Yeah. Okay. So the first item is the non-financial risk assessment. So I think Keith has circulated that today to the councillors, the document. So I guess that needs to be agreed by everyone.
Well, it's under point 14, I think, isn't it? PC policy.
Okay, so we'll deal with that one later on.
Just a health check. I've read it. Has anybody else, councillors, have you all read it?
Yep.
So we can make a decision when we get to point 14, I think, Helen.
Okay. So the next action was John Lewis and Nick Brown to raise an invoice to Vale of Aylesbury Housing Trust for the community contribution.
John has drafted, just before he went away for a break, or produced a draft for me to look at. So I'll have a look at it tomorrow. I mean, it's very straightforward. I had a quick look this evening. It looks perfectly okay, very legitimate and pertinent. So I can imagine that we will get that sent off to Aylesbury Vale Housing Trust in the next few days. But I'll wait for John to get back. But if we can just minute that Nick and John to confirm that that has been sent.
Okay. And then the next item was around the Stockwell, for Paul to arrange for some more vegetation to be cleared. So obviously Paul's not here, but I don't know whether that's been done.
I think we need to take it forward. I think there's been some movement, from what I understand, with one of our parishioners getting involved with the Stockwell, amongst other things from an eco point of view in the village. But can we take that forward
Okay.
for the next meeting and add to it a little more detail needed on the potential eco support?
And the next one was just myself to submit comments on a planning application at Larkspur. That's been done. And then the next one was for Anthony Adams around the signage for the footpath from Chearsley to Hadman, about him to contact Brian Bowman to get clarifications to exactly what was needed. So I guess, I don't know if anyone knows anything with that.
I'm not sure if Anthony's with us this evening. And if he's not, I understand that. I know that Anne, his good lady, had a bereavement with an ex-partner some years ago who died recently in Nether Winchenden. And so I'm assuming that Anthony is ensconced with family issues. So we don't need to minute that, by the way, but if we could just respect that and add that to the actions to be picked up at the next meeting. But in the meantime, Helen, it may well be worth adding to the minutes that when Anthony is free, could he maybe update us on that point sooner than the next meeting, so to speak?
Okay. And then the next one was regarding the closure of Long Crenton surgery, for Nick to circulate the letter to the councillors, which I know has been done.
Yeah, I've done that, and there's an upshot, guys, just very quickly to give you a heads up. I am having a conversation tomorrow with a lady called Liz Wheaton, who is Committee and Governance Advisor for Health and Adult Social Care in Buckinghamshire. And I'll be talking with her and her chairman tomorrow as a general discussion. They've requested to speak to me. I've not chased them, and I think the objective of the call tomorrow, the telephone call tomorrow at 10 o'clock, is to maybe seek some views from us as a village, as to what the feelings are and how we might see things going or not going. So I can't say much more than that, except to say that we are supporting Long Crendon. And in my note that I did send out to her, I made it quite clear that although we support the efforts to protect social services, surgeries, those sorts of things, we also need to make it clear that we also want to understand what options there may be available other than the ones being suggested, to see if there are alternative solutions that could benefit all the people concerned. So I'll give an update on that in the next few days once I've had a chance to sort of listen and comment with Liz and her team.
Okay. And then the next one is around updating the village signposts. So Nick was to circulate some signage ideas. This is regarding a pedestrian signage for the village hall, shop, church, etc.
Well, I think I copied you into another note this morning, Helen, to Colin Walford. I've sort of, for a very strange reason, I have decided to err on the side of caution, which I'm sure will bring a smile to your lips, by trying to engage the right people and get them on side to do things that will then fit with highways, Bucks County Council, etc., etc. So I've written to Colin Walford, indicating what it is we want to do on that quadrant outside the Parry's house, and essentially to replace that awful sort of post with a couple of very small cycle stroke walking signs that no one really sees, with something similar to the one across the way by the grip bin with the black and white and the old English sign, but clearly including signage that would then point towards the village hall, towards the church or the shop, a cricket club, whatever, but actually giving visitors more of an indication of what we're about here. And so instead of wandering into the pub or the shop and saying, where's the village hall, where's the cricket club, we can start to give people, in a quintessentially English way, some nice English signs. So it's ongoing and it needs to be carried forward to the next meeting, I think, Helen.
Okay. The next action point was just for myself to add tree and verge matters as a standard agenda item, which has been done. And then the final action point was just on me to add neighbourhood plan and CCTV as agenda items for this meeting. So neighbourhood plan is on the agenda and CCTV, as explained, has been moved to the November agenda. So as far as I'm aware, I think that's all the matters arising, unless anybody has anything else.
Any more comments on that? No? Okay, we'll go to point 5. Not sure. Pleasing to see on point 5 there are no planning applications received. Is that right, Helen?
That's correct. Yeah, nothing new's come in.
So that's in a way good news. And okay, noted. Correspondence. Any correspondence from anybody into us, out from us? No? Okay. I think we need to, I know we won't, yeah, Bucks County Council as well. You know where we are with Bucks County Council. It's very much up in the air, and we're still waiting for the election, which is due to now be next year in May. There are no ABDC councillors in a sense, although they are still in the mix somewhere because there's no election being held. Clive Harris, I've not spoken to Clive for a few weeks, and that's something I ought to chase up and maybe ask if he would contribute. So maybe we could ask him if he could join us on our next Zoom meeting, because I'd like to continue putting pressure on them to achieve the last piece of the jigsaw, i.e. from, if you like, Lammas Lane to Cuddington, or certainly Lammas Lane to the crossroads before you turn left to Winchendon, has got to be sorted before this winter, ideally. And even if that's just some form of temporary covering to then in the spring be able to do the whole thing properly. But as we know, this is not just about highways, this is also about environmental departments and Thames Water. So I think it would be good for me to brief Clive to say that's what we'll be asking him to join us for, and then we'll maybe get a bit more information.
So Nick, will you contact Clive, or did you want me to?
Yeah, I'll phone him. Okay. Any reports from councillors attending meetings in outside organisations? John, I don't know if you have any news on.
No,
the only thing with the twinning with the village in France.
I've no, I haven't got any. I haven't had any further meetings since we last met.
Okay, thanks, John. Keith.
Yeah, I unfortunately I missed the Hadnam and Wadston Community Board Highways and Road Safety subgroup, but I did submit a Chearsley response to the questionnaire they requested, and I copied that to everyone, so you saw that went in. I forwarded the minutes from the meeting. To be honest, I think there was nothing of great substance there. So at the moment, it's more. It seems more a forum for just sharing ideas, sharing contacts, sharing what we're doing. Without, I think that it's still trying to crystallise what, if any, are going to be pertinent action points that we can get behind. But where I think just as Cuddington are doing their own plans at the minute, I'll give an update on the SID, speed indicator device. I can do it now or do it later, Nick, as you want.
Well, it's not an agenda item. So why don't you give us, are you going to also cover your conversations you guys are having with Cuddington as well, in terms of, I know there's been some interest in Chearsley. I've been approached several times now about, would we consider having a breakout similar to the one in Cuddington, although I think there are a couple of questions there. One is the expense, and the second one is whether that truly would start to improve our own traffic flows. But I know you're talking with Cuddington, and I've said to people locally, we're not doing anything until such time as we get some more feedback from the Chearsley Parish Council as to how they think it's going. But yeah, Keith.
Well, first on that, yes, John might have some more to add on the build out, but yeah, certainly taking note of what they're doing. It's on the entrance on the Aylesbury side of Cuddington, coming into the village from that side, and they're putting a gradation of speed limit. So it goes from 50, so they're putting a new 40 before the 30, and then the build out. So I think, yeah, and it costs about 45 grand, which I think they got a grant from the new homes that are being put up there. So I think very interesting to see how that goes and see what we can learn from it. On the speed indicator device, that's scheduled to be put up in the first position on Wednesday. Got a volunteer group pulled together for that. My only issue is it's going to absolutely pour down with rain at 10 o'clock on Wednesday, apparently. So I'm not sure if it needs to be moved. But
you got a winter jacket that will sort of keep you warm, Keith?
Luckily, I have, Nick. I've come into my possession with some very good Chearsley Parish Council Wear Community Matters branding. So that'll be excellent when I'm being blown around by the rain for the good of the village, obviously.
I'm there as well, by the way,
Oh, that's true. Yes, I forgot. Sorry. So I was pursuing Colin Wolford. I hadn't heard from him, so I'll be interested to hear if you get a response. I was just checking because he offered to put these 4 poles around the village where we can mount the SID free of charge. There's one in Aylesbury Road, just outside Odyssey. I think there's another one further up. But I'm not sure what he's done on all the others, whether he's expecting. There are some current signposts, not signposts, speed sign poles we can use. So it's just the pole that we were going to put in the vicinity just outside Prospect and Byways and Adam Laz's place, because they couldn't put it in the ground there because they said there was too much underground infrastructure, so they didn't want to cause something. They didn't want to break anything. So we'll chase that up. I'm chasing that up with Colin. I emailed him a week or so ago, and I haven't heard from him. He may be on holiday. But anyway, so the first implementation of the SID should be done this week in all its glory, and we'll be able to start collecting data from that and starting building up some traffic patterns, which we can feed to the police, hopefully, in the future.
Right. Good stuff. Thanks, Keith.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Yeah.
Sorry, you did ask me about outside meetings. Perhaps I forgot that the day after our last parish council meeting, yourself, I, and John Lewis met with Graham Hillary, the Bucks Freight strategy manager, to, we had highlighted a problem with the branch being removed from our much loved horse chestnut tree, and he wanted to come and talk to us about it and about the problems. And I think you'll agree with me, we had a very productive meeting. He is now chairing the Wadston Freight Project, which is looking at the whole question of HGV traffic, commercial vehicle traffic, not just through our village, but all the villages located in between the A41 and the A418 in the Wadston area. And I think what I would like to formally report is that as a result of that meeting, he very much said to us, if you've got any issues, please come and speak to me first. And we did that when we had a problem actually right next to my house, where Thames Water did some work and restored the ground with grass seed, and the following day a very large car transport from ASM reversed over it 3 times. And anyway, I took photographs. We also, very fortunately, thanks to Roe Parry, we had photographs of the vehicle actually carrying out this crazy maneuver. And within, Graham took it up immediately with ASM. He told us they were a company that did respond to complaints of this nature. And within 48 hours, one of their vehicles arrived to repair all the damage. Probably more significantly, he did say they had remonstrated with the driver, who clearly should not have undertaken that maneuver. So I was personally very encouraged by the response, and we do seem to have a good channel in now. If we get problems, that we can expect some concerted action, because in the past it's not always not been easy. But I think one of the critical things I would like to say to everybody in our village is that if we can get photographic evidence, it makes it 100 times easier to get a response. And we had, as I say, thanks to Roe Parry, some excellent video footage, which I won't say it clinched the issue, but it gave Graham ammunition to get I believe, a satisfactory outcome on our part.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Okay, thanks for that. That's great. I don't think there's any subcommittee decisions for ratification, Helen.
No, Nick, I think you've missed item 8, finance, haven't you?
I was just waiting to see if Robert had noticed.
I noticed. I'm mortally offended.
My humble apologies, Finance Officer.
But you were right by instinct, Nick, because other than my report, I have nothing to say.
Item 8, finance, haven't you?
I was just waiting to see if Robert had noticed.
I noticed. I'm mortally offended.
My humble apologies, Finance Officer. We're getting some sort of feedback here.
Finance, haven't you?
Sorry, Keith.
Sorry.
We seem to get a replay of sound.
Yeah, that was. I think that was coming from me. I apologise.
Oh, okay. I think they were probably trying to block you digitally as well, Robert, by the sounds of it.
The report's there. I'm very happy to take questions, but I've nothing to add to it.
Yeah, I've got the finance report in front. As you say, it's quite straightforward, and I think there's nothing on there of a particular note. Normal sort of expenditure. Second tranche of the precept was received at the end of September. Some expenditure with things like, as Keith's talking about, traffic technology, the clothing, protective and clothing, professional clothing for the councillors, insurance for the parish council, and £2.50 for Wilco stationery. I mean, good Lord. But yeah, I think we've obviously been, yes, I think that looks good, Robert. And nothing more to add then, really.
The only other thing to say is that I revised the 6-month report and circulated that to all the councillors because at the end of the month, we had some significant expenditure. So I thought, just to keep things straight, I would reissue that. But I mean, it's there, it's on the record, nothing more to add.
And also, as you quite properly documented, the projects for the coming year, a la the budget as well, priority setting meeting, which John Lewis has been promoting, and you've been very involved in, as we all have to a degree. But this is going to come up as a separate item, I think, on the agenda. Yeah. And what we want to try and do is achieve a budget in reasonable record time, so that we just move on into the year in a very organised and sensible way.
Yeah.
Is that fair comment?
Yeah, it's fair. For me,
okay. All right. Thanks, Robert, and I won't forget next time.
I won't be here next time.
Oh no, you're away for a while. Oh wow, blimey! I should have saved it for next time. Anyway, okay. Good. Good. Yes, everything's good. Officers' reports. Any officers' reports?
I might say a few words about the free Verge survey.
Yep.
And my somewhat stilted English. The 3 reports all been documented on spreadsheets. The latest series is Dark Lane and Shops Lane and Morris. Pages.
Was that Dark? I think that was that Dark Lane. Yeah.
Dark Lane, Shop Lane, White Screen, and various bits of in between. Church Lane has been completed, and School Lane and Low Green completed. I still have been able to finish, obvious reasons. If you would like, I'll send the spreadsheets around. You can all have a look at them. And
that sounds good. That sounds good, Ian.
What you want to do with them.
That sounds great, mate. Yeah. Oh, well done. And I know that we're still waiting for 4 Seasons to complete outstanding work, which has been approved. And I think it will be complete after the 6-week conservation notice period, I think, Ian.
Yeah.
So that's good. Good. Well, listen, Ian, thanks very much.
Yeah.
I know you've not been on top form of late, but we'd love to see you on this evening here, and we're sending you lots of best wishes and lots of love. And thanks for that update. That's bloody brilliant, mate. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that covers really tree and verge matters, because Paul did text me from his location in Scotland, but I think Ian has done a remarkably good job, and I think generally we're pleased with the work that seems to be going on with Tom Audley, and I'm sure there'll be other bits and bobs as time. I mean, the one area I was thinking of, Ian and councillors, was we ought to make an effort to try and clear at least the horse chestnut tree, the iconic horse chestnut tree. We should at least try and get some sort of a real good cleanup around that. Yeah. Because I noticed again today there's heavily, covered in leaves on the grass, and it's the one area that we did say we were going to try and spend a bit more time in. So whilst I know we have many gangs, in the village helping out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, when all the leaves are down, we can clean
Yeah.
it up.
Yeah. So maybe make a note of that, Helen, for some form of a gang, either that we try and recruit or we pay for, because it's just a key area that we need to keep on top of, given the work that.
Say 4 people with rakes will suffice it.
Yeah. Well, given the work you did in catching all those moths, and it's amazing how that tree remains so much greener than most of them I've seen around the county.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Okay, very quickly, the neighbourhood plan. All that's to say was that I went and saw Ken True from Cuddington, the parish councillor, who's effectively written the neighbourhood plan over the last year and a half for Cuddington. And I talked to John Lewis before I went, and I think probably rather than him joining us on a Zoom call this evening, it may be prudent for me, say John or whoever wants it. I just want a small group that Ken's prepared to have a face-to-face in the garden or a Zoom call, because some of the things he was talking about seem to make a lot of sense for what we want to maybe do. But before we do anything, I think it was important to get his recommendations with our thoughts to present back to the parish council, because in essence, he feels that as time goes on, the neighbourhood plan could potentially have less and less validity or impact, if you like, with the way that government is performing with the housing requirements. So if you're comfortable with that, I'll set that Zoom up with whoever and Ken, and we'll report back to the main body as to what we think we should or shouldn't do. Are people comfortable with that?
Good to get some advice.
Hands in agreement? Yeah, councillors, that's a unanimous vote. Okay.
Just one point, Nick. So, because I thought with the government trying to go ahead with this kind of you only get one chance, one bite of the cherry at planning, it was more important to have a neighbourhood plan. But are you suggesting that it might not be as black and white as that then?
Well, that's the advice I'm getting from Ken True.
Okay. Yeah, that would be very interesting to understand that.
He's an out and out planner. I mean, this guy was he was the key planner with the King's Cross regeneration in London.
Okay.
And the guy's got serious background, but he's just a nice guy. So Keith, it might well be, if it's John Lewis, and if you want to join us as well, or John Howe, then, or whoever, don't mind. But I mean, it's not mutually exclusive here. It's not a club. So I just, given the amount of work that went into the village plan, I just want to get it right for everybody, because it's a heck of a lot of work. And one of the things, just off the record, that Ken was saying was, we could take the village plan and just embellish, develop it, expand it into more of a neighbourhood type of plan, because a lot of the village plan would not change. I think the main thing about the neighbourhood plan is housing. And so the two key aspects of that village plan expanded would probably be housing, and if it ever happened, what is the infrastructure needed to support that housing in terms of utilities, medical, teaching, you name it. But so he's well versed, and I can let you have a copy actually, probably, because I know they were sending it out today, I think, Cuddington, for final consultation with parishioners for a further opportunity to consult. And so I'll get a copy and let everyone have a look at it.
Right, thank you.
Okay, PC policies, these are the ones that were brought together over the last, how many months? Probably 6 to 9 months, I think, Helen. Various policies that we felt was important to be completely transparent with. And the latest one was submitted, well, you've seen it today. And really that's for ratification.
There's 2 new ones. There's the health and safety policy that's been circulated, and then Keith's non-financial risk register. And then all the other policies have been in place for a number of years, and they are reviewed annually at the AGM. Obviously, this year we didn't have an AGM. But what John Lewis wants to do is just to get them all on sort of headed papers. I think at the moment they're not all uniform and on headed paper. So John Lewis is going to get those all sort of set up and on headed paper, and then put that onto the website. They're already on there, but just to kind of get them looking good. And then obviously add the 2 new policies once they've been ratified by everybody.
Well, can I propose firstly that the health and safety, which you've read, and the non-financial risk are adopted? Those in favour raise their hands. So that's a unanimous agreement, which is absolutely spot on. Now, in terms of the other policies, I know we're supposed to review those at the annual meeting, but do we have to wait for the annual meeting, or can we just, in principle, as a council, propose to accept those again as well? Ellen?
Yeah, we can do that, and I think that's what John was suggesting. That I think I circulated them all the other day. I'm pretty sure I did.
Right.
Just in case of everyone making sure they're happy with those, so that we can then say they've all been reviewed, and then sort of issue them all with the same date, and then that's done.
So I'm proposing that the current parish council policies that have been in force for a few years, in principle, are adopted at this meeting with a view to confirming that finally, although it won't be, we'll be presenting them at the next annual general meeting as what we have done. So I'm basically proposing this evening that we adopt those and move on. Those in favour? Okay, so that's unanimous. So that's great. That just tidies up, unfortunately, a lot of paperwork that seems to increase every month that we seem to be breathing.
And also, Nick.
Chair, before we move on, can I just bring everyone's attention to the point that Keith made when he circulated his proposals this afternoon, that these are living documents. So if at any time anything needs to be updated, it can be updated. It doesn't need to wait for a year's time to be reviewed formally.
Absolutely
Good,
spot on.
good clarity. Good clarity.
Sorry, Keith, I cross you.
It's an interesting word. I've had good conversations with folks in the village about parish council meetings, how they're run, the process, the protocols, and I think there's becoming a real good realization that we can't do it as it used to be, not with everything, because there was a time when you'd meet every 5 or 6 weeks, you'd have the conversation and yes or no, and then you wait another 5 or 6 weeks, and the need to move at speed with certain things these days are really important. And this is a classic example of being on Zoom and being able to do that. And I think we just need to bear in mind that when we do this, we don't do it to diminish the moment the parish council meets, but it's more about expedient behaviour that will actually protect what we're trying to do and enhance what we're trying to do. So that's how I try to explain that to parishioners in the village. I think do people sort of agree with that and comfortable with that?
Yeah, and one other point, Nick, I was just going to make is that these policies are referenced in our new risk register. So it's a sort of virtuous circle, and people can go onto the web, look at the risk register, and then look at the policies that it points to. So it all hangs together.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. Absolutely. Okay, point 15 we've covered because that was going to be the CCTV issue, and as I say, that we've moved on with that. Jules, you've been having lots of meetings with the vicar and Richard.
Isn't point 15 about the horse chestnut junction?
Well, that was my CCTV.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry, I thought it was a separate issue to do with the traffic. Yeah, okay.
No, that's the CCTV which we moved on. So, Jules,
Yeah.
I don't see you sporting your yellow jacket.
No, but I do love it. Can't lie, I love high vis. So I had a meeting with the vicar today. We had a little walk round or about what by the war memorial, and there's been a lot of emails going backwards and forwards about risk assessments and things like that. I think it's probably.
Have you seen the latest email from Bucks Council, Julie, that came out this evening?
Yes, yeah, I have had a read of that. Now, as far as I'm aware, we can have a small service at the memorial, which would be led by one of the lay ministers, and then there would be a small group of representatives who would be able to lay wreaths, probably 4, 5 maybe, and then people are allowed to spectate, as far as I'm aware. So this is what Rich and I were discussing today. They're allowed to spectate, but they're not allowed to participate. So we would have to make sure that we would have to utilise all of the green space around that memorial. So we're talking about the Horse Chestnut Island, we're talking about the triangle opposite outside the Parry's house, the verge outside Manor Villas on Chiltern Road, and actually bearing in mind the number of people that would go to the War Memorial usually, I think it would be very, very straightforward, just with maybe marking out distance markers on the grass. We'd have to obviously have an area marked off for, I believe it's John Schofield who's looking to take the service. He usually does. So there'll be an area for him. Then we'd have another marker at least 2 meters away for the representatives to lay their wreaths, and obviously they would need to be distanced. And then way back, if people wanted to spectate, they could. It would be a very, very short service. I would think barely 10 minutes long, but then that means that if people wanted to pay their respects and join in with the minute silence, they could in a central place. Obviously, we'd need to do QR codes as well, but I think that would be very straightforward to do that. Laminate some sheets and we could put them on just temporarily, just for the morning, on the signposts in all of the areas where we think there might be people likely to be gathering, and they would just need to be informed that that they would need to do that. That will enable us to have some sort of ceremony to mark that day. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I mean, thank you. Thanks, Jules. I know we caught up earlier, but thank you very much for doing all that work and that liaising, because I personally, and I think we all agree, that not having that service of some sort would not just be the way we'd want to do it. And no matter how brief, the fact that we've paid our respects is absolutely the right thing to do. And all the work you've done with Richard and other people, and I'm sure you can rope a few more of us in on the day, should ensure we have a very safe and, if I can put it, pleasant service for those servicemen.
Jules, have you thought about putting everyone on the green, apart from the ones who are officiating, so that people can watch from a distance and be sort of together but separate, if you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. You can't see much of the green from the War Memorial, and I was thinking it would be fairly similar to, in line to, obviously very sadly we have lost some villagers over the lockdown period, and on the days of the funerals, villagers did make their way outside to pay their respects on the roadside, and it would be akin to that really. Obviously people, you might have one person on their own, but you might have a family of 4 that need to be a bit more spaced out. So I think actually to fit, let's say there were 40 groups, 40 small groups, it might be one person, might be 4 people, but I think actually to have them all on the green, you'd have to have them so spread out that some people would be right by Nick's front garden, whereas if you can utilize the other areas, I mean, they would be far away from the memorial anyway. So we could do that. I think we have to be very careful of not encouraging people to come, if that makes sense. We can let people know that it's happening, and if they want to spectate, they can come, but it's not seen as advertising it as a thing. It's a bit of a grey area, but what do you all think?
I hesitate in the sense that what we don't want this to become is a big workup, and I think we should trust in Jules and the vicar and maybe a couple of your key players to actually direct us in the best way possible. And as individuals, we fall into line, because I can't believe that anyone's going to make anything other than really good decisions in that group. So I take your point, Robert, and I think others as well. But I think we need to place the responsibility on this, if you don't mind, Jules, with you and Richard, to give us direction, and we will follow.
Yeah, I mean, I think essentially once, because I said to Richard that I'll bring this up this evening, and once because we technically have to give permission, not permission, but we have to say that it's okay for it to go ahead, because the responsibility will fall to us because it's not on church land. So we need to be clear that we're able to do it. Having looked at the risk assessment that we would be asked to fill out, the one I've seen isn't the most up-to-date one, but it is in the last month, I think. And it's very much what we can do. We can definitely do it in a safe manner, and all we would need, obviously, is just have a couple of people just to be about, just to make sure that people don't converge in groups. That's all it is, really. But I don't think people will, because it's not that kind of thing.
Martin, you've got a comment?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Thames Water did some work on the village hall recently, for which they had some barriers which they left there, and despite 4 phone calls from myself and a couple from Graham, because he was getting fed up with mowing around them, they've refused to pick them up. So we now have about 9 interlocking barriers which we can put up to close roads off or to guide people or whatever, if that's of any use anywhere. They're just behind the fence in the village hall at the moment, but I can get them out and put them where anybody wants them, if that's of any help. And the second thing is, presumably now's about the right time to wake up our sleeping soldier.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'll get that done in the next couple of days. Then.
That's what I mean, Jules. I think you need to lead this and be strong and say, look, let's get those barriers in. I mean, I've got a load of this emergency tape they put on roads or crime scenes. I don't know where I got it from, but it's all that sort of stuff. I'm sure we've all got bits and bobs that could help make sure that once the plan's in place, it can be marshalled. But
yeah, I think the main area that needs to be cordoned off is the area where those who are participating in the service needs to be, which is actually, it's a big space, but it's a small space. When you look at the area where the memorial is, it's actually a small portion of that. And as long as that is, the rest of it would be whether we spray mark lines coming back, if you like, a bullseye, if you like. And then we just have to ask people to be responsible. People do, though. People know how near. And if they're walking up talking to their neighbours, that's fair enough. But when they're there, they need to be sensible and they need to follow the rules. Otherwise, we can't hold these kind of things moving forward.
So will you be putting out some form of bulletin or?
Well, I need to go back to Richard. If we're all in agreement that if we can safely manage to have a small remembrance service, and if people wish to spectate from a distance, they can. If we're happy to go ahead with that, then I will go back to Richard to say, we can speak to John Schofield, ask him to start putting something together. I think he's already spoken to John Lewis, because there's been some emails going backwards and forwards there about a PA system.
Right.
Then we can start the wheels in motion, and then we can start looking at exactly what we're going to do on the day.
Okay. So all those in favour of Jules getting on and doing that, raise your hand. So unanimous. Thank you. Thanks, Jules. That's really, really good news, and a great exercise. So thank you. Yeah,
particularly on the QR code, because I was wondering how you're going to take names and everything. So that's a great solution. Well done.
Yeah. I'm assuming there's no further parishioners' question times.
There are, Nick, if I may.
What?
Can I be a parishioner for 5 minutes?
Well, do we need to vote on this?
Come on.
There are 2 issues I'd like to raise. One, I was hoping Anthony would be here this evening, because the style between Paul Bowen's field and the lower Haybrook field below the church is dangerous.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know who needs to do something, but somebody needs to do something.
I think Anthony's on it.
Okay, that's fine.
But can we just minute that, Helen? So it's the style that runs from the Haybrook field into Paul Bowen's paddock.
Yes.
Oh, the one by those little trees, saplings.
Yeah, a little
Yes.
sapling planted.
All right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And at the same time, we're looking at putting in a proper gate as well on the diagonal run across to sort of John and Sean's property. Do you know what I mean? So when you go across his paddock, you're going in a diagonal almost towards looking at Paul Oliver's house, but Sean and Jonathan's on the right.
Yeah.
So we're looking at putting a gate there as well.
And my
Okay.
second point is there any way to get smaller dustbin carriers through the village, because they're churning up the lanes down here?
Bin lorry.
Ian, you've probably seen evidence of this.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a good shout, because the guy that come around and do all the food bins is a little lorry, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, this morning, for example, it took half of Ian Alamgir's bank away and went over our bank. And it's not a personal comment, it's more about the preservation of the banks in the village.
This will all come down to economics and volume and God knows what else.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's a good point. If you raise that, I'll pick that up. I'll pick that up as an action point, Helen.
Okay.
Okay, that should.
Thanks, Nick. Sorry.
No, I only picked it up on the basis that I thought it absolved me of missing point 8 on the agenda. Finance report, but never mind. We've got to find more ways of smiling, really, haven't we? Because we look outside, it's dark at sort of 5 o'clock, and it's grey and everything else, and the world seems to be struggling. But we will remain strong, won't we, team?
Oh, yes.
We're not taking a vote. Come on, we can do it. Items for information. Keith Turnbull.
Nothing. Oh, there was one thing, I'm sure. Oh God, what was it? Oh yes. Yeah, I put round a proposal in email that Derek Allen of the Old Bakery is happy to give us help do facilitation and coordination of eco matters, because he's very good at preparing briefing papers, etc. He doesn't want to be called an eco officer at this stage or anything like that, because he's got a lot of stuff on from a work point of view. But he's very happy to coordinate with other villages. I believe we had an incoming from another village, Helen, asking to.
Yeah.
So he's happy to pick that up. And if everyone, we could take a quick vote on that in a second, if everyone's happy with that. But we're all got lots and lots of things to do, so having another pair of hands, particularly as professional as Derek, sounds to me a great idea. And from a youth point of view, I had a meeting with Alex Wall-Morris and her daughter Bella Wall-Morris, who's very interested in all things eco, as you might have seen the Chearsley car show last year. But I suggested if she was interested to pick up, from a youth angle, to give some input, to get some ideas, to solicit from her age group some, what are the thoughts that she and her sort of cohort had about, what we could be doing from a village point of view, from an eco point of view. And she seemed very keen to do that under the watchful guidance of Alex. So she's going to try and pull some thoughts together, to put back to us. And I think if we've got sort of Derek coming from the sort of professional end, if you like. I think that's a great pincer movement to sort of, you know, give us some thoughts to go out to the parishioners with. So is everyone happy that Derek gives us a hand and does some coordination and basically would present ideas to us, and then we've got something to look through and discuss.
So I think what we're asking is for a show of hands for Derek and Bella to join us in the efforts going on in the village. So that's a unanimous vote. And well done, Keith. I mean, that's just brilliant. And I love the angle of getting some of the youth involved in some of the things we're doing, I'd like to do, or they might remind us to do. And as you say, Derek's got a wealth of experience. So again, it's just we strengthen the team every day. So that's good news. Robert, anything to add?
Nothing. Thank you.
Helen?
No, nothing.
Mr. Howard, Monsieur Howard.
Merci, monsieur. Couple of things, I'm sorry to have to say, but drains. When we had our sort of budget exploratory discussion about budgets, Robert suggested that we may, or we should look at the possibility of having a sort of permanent budget item for drainage. We have incurred some costs in the last couple of years. And what I did say was that I would check out at least have a better understanding of what the commitment of our council was. I attended a conference recently, Transport for Bucks, where main roads they commit to clear every year, other roads 3 years. Well, I don't think we've seen an awful lot of evidence of that in our village in the last few years. But before we commit ourselves, if you like, to a program that, you know, sure, if we don't have to pay for it, we don't want to, but, you know, if in terms of the the well-being, if I can put it that way, of our community and our drainage system, we need to do it, then let's at least be aware of what the ballpark that we're playing in. Funnily enough, very shortly after that, one of our parishioners, or a couple of our parishioners, highlighted a drainage problem at the bottom of Lower Green Lane. And we've already had a response by our local area technician, Colin Wolford, who's looking into it. And before that problem is resolved, there will need to be a discussion with a local farmer. And he is currently undertaking that. There'll be a ditch that needs to be cleared, so that's ongoing. But I will also, I thought I'll get this specific problem dealt with, and then we'll get absolute clarification in time for us to set our budget for 21-22 on what, at least in theory, we can the drainage support we can expect from the council.
Great.
Finally, traffic survey. Can I just say to all those present and all those listening in, thank you again so much for taking part in our traffic survey on the 24th of September. We've been we have been furiously analysing the data, and we will have our final report ready for circulation very, very shortly. We will then circulate that report to the various interested organisations, the Wadston Freight Group, our community board group, and other key contacts within the Bucks setup to alert them to our concerns. Top line results, yes, we do have heavy HGV traffic on the Winchenden and Crendon roads, and that was again confirmed by the survey. Interestingly, it was slightly down in September from the July level, so I don't know whether we are still, you know, in a sort of a post-lockdown situation. Interestingly, some preliminary comparing notes with Cuddington, they've actually seen a very dramatic increase in their traffic. But anyway, we still have major issues with HGV numbers going through our village, and also the behaviour of drivers on occasions. And so it's very high on our agenda, and it's very important that we're able to document those concerns. So once again, many thanks to all those volunteers, the 40 volunteers who took part on the 24th of September, and you will see a report from us in the next few days. And that's been, thank you.
Thanks, John, and my thanks to your good lady Alicia for serving us a very reasonable hot lunch as we sat in the freezing cold outside the bus shelter that day. It was most appreciated.
I'd rather you didn't highlight that, because you didn't give anybody else. It was just the two of us who got one, Nick. So
I think that's about right, John. I mean,
there are only there might be one or two other volunteers who'll give me
is there a problem? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, thanks, John. Ian, anything to add?
No.
Good man. Speedy recovery. Lots of love. Good to see you. Martin Herman, are you in Chearsley or are you in Haddenham? I can't see you.
I'm in Chearsley at the moment, and will be for the immediate future.
Good lad. Good lad.
But no, what are they called? Items for information.
Thank you very much, sir. Julia Witcher.
I have a couple of things, nothing too strenuous. Although one thing I would say is on the back of John Howard's talking about the traffic survey, I do think it's quite important that the villagers also take on some responsibility for the driving in the village. And I've seen some choice driving from some of our residents, and we can't really expect other people to treat our village and our village roads with respect if we who live here can't be bothered to do it either. So that's one thing I'll say about that. But moving on to something a bit more cheerful, which is...
Do you seriously, Julia?
Yes.
Are you able to talk to me quietly about that?
Yes, because yes.
And I can follow up.
Okay. You'd be surprised who it was. Anyhow, moving on.
Probably me.
Christmas tree. Do we want a Christmas tree this year for some Christmas cheer?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, Christmas tree! Yay! Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Just so I know. And also, I had an idea, because obviously we can't have a Christmas tree lighting unless things change significantly in the next 5 weeks. But I didn't know whether, and this is just to float the idea, so we don't have to decide tonight. You might think I'm mad. You already do probably, but how about doing a community Christmas paper chain? So I'm happy to organise it, but if we put a small strip of paper through people's doors and they want to write a message on it or something like that, then we could have places where they can drop them off, obviously socially distanced, and then I can laminate them and we can make paper chains that can go maybe around the hawthorn trees on the green.
Oh,
So
wow.
like a village paper chain.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Does that mean we can save ourselves some of the soggy bells and whistles from Chuff?
Oh dear.
I don't know. Maybe we could get them to do some pieces of the paper chain. But I just
I'm
wondered
most
if you thought it was a
appreciative.
good idea.
I'm pulling their leg, but it's true, they do. But they do a marvellous job every Christmas. So we maybe just need to make sure they're not a distance from anything.
Well, they can do the tree, and then I thought we could use the trees that are already on the green all the time, make them look pretty. But you know, it's just an idea, just to do something community-wise. Also, I think we need to think about people who are maybe on their own in the village at Christmas, and if obviously depending on where things are, I think that should be on our radar. If there's anything we can do to support people who are on their own at Christmas, but that's just throwing it out there, just to think.
It's one is getting a list of those people, and B, understanding whether they are truly going to be alone or whether they're going to have family or something.
Yeah, or even those people that might be in a couple but might be lonely and not lonely, you know what I mean, but might appreciate a bit more company.
No, that's a great idea. Are you happy to take that forward with a couple of your friends and see if we try and establish who's who.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to try and do something, because I do think, you know, I know Tame, because Tame do a big Christmas dinner thing, don't they? Tame Community Christmas, and they're actually taking food out, and they actually are looking for drivers who are willing to give a few hours on Christmas Day to go and help deliver the food. They haven't opened their list yet, so you can apply, but they will be wanting people to do that. And even if that's something we could do, or we could maybe do something in the village hall, I don't know what. I mean, obviously all these things are changing as the days go by, but I do think we should have it on our radar that we could do
Yeah.
something.
No, I think that's a great idea, George. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. One item from me, but not needing a response right now, but I have circulated to you all a document to do with asset values in the community. And I'd just ask you if you'd read the document, and I've had one or two bits of feedback already as to what your thoughts might be in protecting assets. And of course, you know, assets are, I don't know, like the Bell pub, the shop, you know, they're places like that. And as I say, I won't go into the detail because I've sent all the detail to you, but it's just another way of making sure we're aware of what's happening to our valuable assets in the village. So if you could read the document and send me a paragraph back, that would be wonderful. And I think that's it, actually. That's a good meeting. Have I missed anything with anybody? No. If not, the date and the time of next meeting is Monday, the 16th of November at 7:30. And no doubts will be in this format. So, yeah, let's go from there. But in the meantime, thanks everyone for the contributions and the help and support. Cracking team. It's getting bigger. We've got even more people with talent coming on board, whether they're young, youth, or older folks. And it's just wonderful to see. So, Keith, my thanks again for hosting this and having all the technology in place. John, look forward to seeing you back soon. Ian, take care, get well. All of you, enjoy it. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks.
Bye, parishioners. Bye.
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 Bye.